If you didn't see my video yesterday, I'm back. I took over a week off because I came down with COVID, got really sick, and needed to just rest locked in a tower, not infecting anyone else and not making myself worse. But today I tested negative, so we are back with Good Morning Mario and Good Morning Switch fans. Exciting stuff to talk about today because one of the coolest things that's happened this generation is that Nintendo took the handcuffs off Mario and Zelda. At least for a little bit. They loaned out Mario to Ubisoft for Mario plus Rabbids, and they loaned out Link and Zelda to Cadence of Hyrule, which was bonkers for Nintendo, some of the most protective IP holders on the planet. Well, it sounds like they're at it again as we have a new big leak about 3 new Nintendo games where they're loaning out their brand and saying, make something magical. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. It feels fantastic to be back in the saddle with you all. Got a few news bits to touch on before we get to our main topic, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and hopefully none of you are sick because it was way too long. And honestly, I think I did pretty well with it, getting it like completely done out of my system in about 8-9 days. Honestly, that feels pretty darn great. I feel basically back to normal, a little bit tired, but for the most part, I feel good. My favorite one is about Sakurai, and he announced that he's closing his YouTube channel. Shop will wrap up sometime this year, which begs the question, why? Sakurai has run this really cool deep dive YouTube channel on the process of game development and his personal process. He's done it for about 18 months, and now he says it's coming to a close. And so that means either he's bored of it, or he's really deep in game development. Now, it's interesting timing because just a few days ago, he said he was still creating games. Now he's saying he's going to close his YouTube channel sometime soon. This to me sounds like the boy is back in the workshop, and Merlin himself is hard at work on something exciting and new, most likely for Nintendo. He's talked before about not wanting to be the person for Smash Brothers because it needs a new direction, a new mind, but at the same time, Sakurai has said that multiple times before. He has stepped away multiple times only to be drawn right back in. So I don't know for sure what he's working on, but I for sure think he's working on something for Nintendo, and I would bet that he needs to go sort of back dark as opposed to having this more public-facing persona to really get into the meat and potatoes of game development. Maybe they were in the pitching stage, maybe they were in the early stages, and now it's time for Sakurai to get back with it. I think he enjoyed his YouTube time, and I think now it's time for him to go back to his true passion and true love, which is making sick games for us to play on our Nintendo platforms. Now, I suppose there's a chance that maybe he just ran out of topics, but Sakurai doesn't seem like that kind of guy. I feel like most of his decisions are very well thought out, and I feel like they're made with other moving pieces and other moving parts, so I expect not to hear anything in the near term, but I expect this guy to be back with a new game in like 3 years. So we might not hear from him for a while, but yeah, his YouTube channel, enjoy these last moments because it's been one heck of a ride for a massive gaming industry icon to publicly share all of that insight. Sony gave a little tidbit on the Zelda movie, which sounds like I made a mistake, but that's not an error. Sony is distributing the movie for Nintendo for the live-action Zelda movie, and they gave a small little update on the movie, so I'll just bring it to you factually, quickly, and as is. We are also excited about another IP expansion, the adaptation of Nintendo's game franchise The Legend of Zelda. This live-action film will deliver an amazing tale of adventure and discovery. Sounds like an origin story to me, although origin story for Link is a bit weird given the timelines and how things all work. I'm curious to see where they go. I feel like Ocarina of Time seems to be like the most likely pool to draw from, to pull from, and to sort of base the character and maybe even the plot around, but we'll wait and see. Also, there is a pretty great sale on Amazon right now on physical Switch games. You got Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope for $19, which is just an absolute gimme. Mario RPG is $7 off, Sonic Superstars is half off, Hogwarts Legacy is $8 off, Tears of the Kingdom is $10 off, and there's some more in there as well. So peruse your Amazon if you're looking to get a new Switch game to kick this year off before the releases really get going. Now, releases I'd be most excited for are the creative ones, are the chaotic, unique, different, exciting ones, because I think risks bode well. Nintendo took risks by going open world with Zelda. Amazing. Nintendo took risks with Mario in Mario Wonder getting kind of kooky. Amazing. Nintendo took risks with both Mario plus Rabbids and with Cadence of Hyrule, and both games are freaking fantastic. So when Christopher Dring of GameIndustry.biz talks about Nintendo deep in talks with 3 different studios that they're ready to lend their Nintendo brand out to, I'm freaking excited. Now, Christopher Dring is a very well-known and very vetted writer. This isn't just a random rumor from some message board. This is a dude who's in the know, and so I take this as much more of a leak than a rumor. He does talk about comparing how Nintendo has worked with Grezzo, WayForward, Bandai Namco, Team Ninja, Platinum, and Mercury Steam on Nintendo Switch titles. Now, those are titles where they bring the studio on board and it's still like a Nintendo-made game. Mercury Steam did Metroid Dread with Nintendo. WayForward did Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp with Nintendo. So there's a difference between that and what Ubisoft and Brace Yourself Games have done with both Rabbids and Cadence respectively. In the following sentence, Dring says, but the company is looking to add to that roster. And I know of 3 studios that are in deep conversation around making games based on Nintendo brands. So it is a little bit unclear if he's talking more about the former, Bandai Namco coming in and doing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, or the latter, Ubisoft just getting the keys to Mario and making their own game. But when he says they're making games based on Nintendo brands, to me, that does make it sound more like it is the latter. But I guess this could just be a wording and an interpretation. Regardless, 3 new studios working on Nintendo brands. For more context, Dring says that he knows that Nintendo is seeking studios that could work on some of its IP, which to me then does sound more, again, like the thing of giving Davide and Ubisoft Mario to make the Mario Rabbids game. I mean, either one is good, but to me, that is much more of a leap than the issue of let's just have Team Ninja come in and assist on a game, or let's have Platinum Games come in and assist on a game and then Nintendo publishes it. Personally, I think the ones where they really get risky are more exciting, but I guess it could be both. The Brace Yourself Games is a great example with Cadence of Hyrule, where Nintendo did publish that, even though Brace Yourself Games made it in very much their style. To me, that still feels splintered from bringing in Bandai Namco to work on Smash Bros. You get what I'm saying here? I hope that these 3 games are much more loaning characters out for studios to have their own creative interpretation. And I guess at the end of the day, whoever it's published by doesn't really matter. It's more about the exact type of game that it is. And if Nintendo is actively seeking more partners, to me that does mean that they are going a more diverse route. They've clearly got a great stable of partners to work on franchises, genres, and character fits that they already approve and that they already see success with. We don't need a new partner for Mario Golf, we've already got it. We don't need a new partner for Mario Party, we've already got it. We don't, you know what I mean? We don't need these franchises to swap and switch studios. The only reason to be to add to the family, expand, and take these characters in new directions. And I think everything Nintendo has done over the last year or two really does signify that they are ready to go bigger than ever before. Seeing them expand into theme parks, seeing them expand into movie theaters, seeing how Nintendo is wanting to take their property from a very heavily protected and curated set of characters only able to be touched by Nintendo's top brass to something that, okay, we can do a live action Zelda movie promoted and pushed by Sony. We can do a Mario game that Ubisoft definitely are the ones developing. I think whoever they bring in and however the actual structure of the partnership is, I do think we're indeed due for 3 exciting games. I hope that these are 3 titles that are unlike things we've seen before, because at the end of the day, that's what Mario plus Rabbids and Cadence do best. They're unlike how we typically and traditionally experience Mario or experience Zelda. That is the big difference there, and that's the exciting part. So these games, if they're in the conversation stage, even deep in conversation, they're still years off. And so I expect this to be something that pops up in 2027, 2028, 2029. This is partnerships that probably are a ways away, unless it's indie partnerships. But Dring does sort of separate indies and talk about Nintendo is working on, publishing certain indie games, and then goes into this conversation about other studios working with Nintendo IP. So to me, it sounds like bigger titles, bigger games, and things that we probably won't see the seeds of their labor for a while, but that's okay. Especially with a new generation beginning sometime soon, the Switch 2, you want to have things, tentpole titles, out there in the future that are exciting, that are different. As much as it would be great to get a Tears of the Kingdom 2 and a Mario Kart 9 and a Mario Odyssey 2. Like, it's important that we do invest in brand new stuff. One of the best parts about this gen, Switch, is that they did take risks. And so Nintendo taking risks again, it feels like this is a great recipe. Bringing in new studios, that's risky. And hopefully they push this stuff so that when it does come out, it's not only technically impressive and visually impressive, but gameplay idea variety. It definitely has some ways to impress us as well. The next question becomes, who would they pick and where would they go with it? In terms of studios, I mean, the sky's kind of the limit, right? I think Capcom would be an interesting partner to bring back, as Capcom previously has worked on some handheld Zelda games, and I'd love to see them back in the fray with maybe a 2D Zelda, or honestly, anything, because Capcom has seen such great success with Mega Man, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil. I feel like they're in a great spot and would be a great partner to work with. There's obviously plenty of smaller studios Nintendo could partner with, and then there's probably some oddballs that we might not consider, but that could make an interesting Nintendo game if given the chance. Now, what characters? I mean, the biggest obvious ones are Mario and Zelda again, but I do think maybe Nintendo could experiment with some characters that did not get enough love during the current generation. We're talking about characters like Star Fox, characters like Donkey Kong, but I also think Animal Crossing is very, very ripe for spin-offs and other types of games, and maybe that is where you bring in a studio to take advantage of that IP in a new way. Nintendo was very, 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 in my opinion, conservative with how they pushed AC this generation, given how popular it was globally. They dipped out on DLC, they didn't really continue updates, and there was no sort of spin-off except for a DLC pack. I think it's time to really blow the lid off this franchise, and I also think Zelda is probably more likely to get more expansion than Mario, because we can count all the Marios, right, on multiple hands, the golfs and the parties, but how many Zelda spin-offs are there? Not very many. Maybe a new studio can do more than just the Hyrule Warriors spinoff and the Cadence of Hyrule spinoff into something new, especially as it preps for its big movie debut. And then I'll throw out my favorite, which is give somebody Wario and Waluigi and let them do their own game around those two quirky characters. I think a Wario and Waluigi RPG would be amazing, but even an action game or something completely different would suit their style and maybe bring new blood and new energy into a character roster that has been very rote for a while. Mario gets all the love, but there's plenty of other characters in the Mushroom Kingdom that could see their own spin-off title. It worked well with Captain Toad getting 2 titles of his own, or 1, but then multiple iterations. Regardless, when Nintendo does get creative, or when they allow others to be creative, usually the results are top tier, so this has me very excited. I think it's one of the coolest leaks/announcements that could happen in the beginning of 2024, but I'd love to know what you think. What characters, what games, what IP should Nintendo work with these studios to bring a new, fresh face to? And do you have any ideas or hypotheses on who they might be working with? In the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.